Probably like a lot of you, my sister Amy and I were wondering what difference we could make in the election that just took place. And we thought the best thing we could do was get somebody who hadn't voted to vote. But most of the people we know are pretty conscientious. But Amy was working on a TV show, and she met a woman who was 45 and had never voted because she said she didn't want to be tagged for jury duty. Amy got her to register, and then a couple weeks before the election, Amy said, "Have you thought about who you're going to vote for?" And the woman said, "I read that if Kamala Harris is elected, the first thing she's going to do is cancel Christmas." And Amy said, "Voting's not for everyone. It's actually pretty hard, and the lines are long." So I wrote this for that woman. On what used to be Christmas and is now just December 25th, my daughter phoned saying, "Now see what you did?" She'd done the exact same thing a week earlier, only added bitch to the end of it. So maybe, as Dr. Lurie promised, we're making progress. We used to be so close, Addie and me. My best friend was how we'd refer to one another. My soulmate. What ruined things was me voting for Kamala Harris. The first thing she's going to do when she gets into office is outlaw Christmas. Addie had warned me in the final weeks before the election. This, I thought, was just more nonsense. She was getting off social media. Listen to yourself, I'd said. My only small triumph is the fact that technically the first thing Harris did was legalize those post-birth abortions her opponent had been talking about. People are doing it as late as 5 years now. My neighbor Pam and her husband, for example. "Where's Kaysen?" I asked, after not hearing their son's infernal big wheel racing up and down their driveway. "Not that it's any of your business, Bonnie, but we aborted him." Pam, who turned on me after I'd put a Harris sign in my yard, said, "It seems that like so many American children now, Kaysen came home from kindergarten last Thursday with a different gender." It was the sight of his poor dismembered penis wrapped in a napkin with "Happy Birthday" printed on it. Did his parents in, apparently. It was after the abortion extension that Harris canceled Christmas. I thought it would take a few years, that we'd gradually wean ourselves off, move Black Friday to mid-December, say, and phase out some of the more religious carols. Instead, we had to literally quit cold turkey. No gifts or TV specials, total ban on colored lights and gingerbread. There's still Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, just no Christmas. But why, people asked. "Because I hate white people for stealing my land," said Harris, who now claims to be a full-blooded Cherokee and keeps her tomahawk on the Resolute desk beside the threadbare scalp of Joe Biden, who it turned out she really did hate. If only I'd paid more attention to Instagram and Facebook before the election. If only I'd followed my Uncle Steve's Twitter feed and not had my head in the sand. Everything they said about Harris was true. When Marjorie Taylor Greene claimed the Democrats controlled the weather, I laughed and called her a nut job. Cut to Harris, who makes it snow all across the country on December 24th and 25th, even in Florida and Louisiana, just so we'll miss Christmas more. Young children who haven't yet been post-birth aborted try making snowmen and are rounded up by the hundreds of thousands, then drained of their blood, which is guzzled by the gallon, just so Hillary Clinton can keep looking as young as she does. When Harris shot Tim Walz for sneaking up on her in the Oval Office and appointed Lord Sauron as her new vice president, I said, well, now she's gone too far. I wrote my daughter saying that while it wasn't easy, I had to admit that she was right all along. I should have listened to her, I told her. Your mother's a dope. No sooner had the ink dried on my letter when Harris imposed a 100% tax rate on all working Americans, no matter what their incomes are. The only stamps I had in my desk drawer were from before the election that had Santa on them. His image had been outlawed, of course, and what with my whopping new tax bill, I could no longer afford the new ones, which read simply Joy, and have pictures of Detroit on them. My daughter lives in Charlottetown, 10 miles away. My leg's been bothering me, but still I was willing to walk to her place and hand deliver my letter, and would have, had there not been a knock at my door. "Who's there?" I cried. "The illegal immigrants whose house this now is," came the response. I'd heard this was going to happen, that they'd grown tired of the 5-star hotels they've been living in. But so soon? I opened the door expecting to find Mexicans or Venezuelans, but these people looked Middle Eastern. The woman wore a head covering and both her children had only one eyebrow. "Terrorists," I said, again thinking it was all true, everything Trump had been saying. "Death to America," the man shouted, pushing me aside and storming into my living room. He and his wife and children raced from there to the kitchen, then into the den I've used as a sewing room since Martin died 10 years ago. They were speaking terror, but I could make out the few words they used in English. Cat door, for instance, and self-cleaning oven. Eventually, they tore up the stairs where the bedrooms are before returning and saying that my house was ugly and too small for their needs. I was relieved, of course, but also insulted. Ugly? I just had new carpet put in. And everyone's always admired the wallpaper in my dining room, the repeated scenes of Venice, all in green with the little gondolas. The mother called for her children, and the two of them darted out of the mudroom with Scatterbrain, my beloved Persian, in their arms. "Dinner, good," the father said. Then they went next door to Pam, my poor cat, yowling and spitting at the terrorist girl who held her upside down by the paws. I'd gotten Scatterbrain on my 50th birthday, a gift from the beautiful daughter I'd been too proud and stubborn to listen to. Why must I always learn my lessons too late, I wondered, listening to the screams of the conservative neighbors I had so wrongly belittled and disdained, and realizing for the first time that day that it was snowing. I thought that if Trump won, that wouldn't work anymore, but it does. And this is something called Rules for My New Year's Party. Attention, everyone. No one is saying last year's party was bad, or even not good. But there were a few problems I think can be avoided if you'll all read over these guidelines and keep them in mind when you come next week, not to my old place on Windsor Drive, but to the new, slightly smaller but sunnier one, 2 blocks north at 118 Gingham Terrace. It's a townhouse, and to mark it as mine, I put a wreath on the door, one made of pine boughs painted silver. Do not, I repeat, do not mistake it for my neighbor's door. His is also decorated with a wreath. It is spray painted silver as well, and is basically identical to the one I bought. Balik wants you to knock on his door instead of mine, so that he can complain about me to the Homeowners Association. So be sure to double check the number. Again, I am at 118, he is at 120. If you're confused, look in the front window. Through his, you will see an angry, overweight Turkish guy with a droopy mustache, probably with his shirt off and possibly holding a gun. Through mine, you will see beautiful people partying hard, but also abiding by my rules, which are as follows. 1, no touching my iguana. This is a big one, folks. Again this year, Solomon is living in my wife's bedroom. Candace is still in a coma, so isn't bothered by the heat lamps or the One America news station that seems to keep large reptiles calm. People aren't supposed to linger in there, though. I have it on good authority that last year someone tried feeding Solomon half an egg roll. Not cool. Iguanas are vegans, and that amount of fried food can kill them, even at a length of 4 feet. It is not okay to write on my wife's face and neck, even if you're using a non-permanent marker. While I'm sure she'd appreciate your good wishes, get well soon, etc., her skin is super sensitive, and washing the words off left her with an unsightly rash I had to put cream on for the next 3 weeks. 2, I'm not naming names, but someone brought an infant, only 10 days old, to last year's party. The New Year's baby, this unnamed person went around saying. You might remember that it wore a little sash with a year written on it in glitter that got all over everything. Of course, it was very cute. Everyone loved posing with it, including me. When the baby got tired, someone, again, I am not saying who, laid it on the bed where it fell asleep and was inadvertently smothered by coats and handbags. Tossed on it by latecomers. This was no one's fault. The police, you may have read, labeled it an accident, but should it happen a second time, they might not be so quick to forgive. So let's just say that no one under the age of 14 is allowed to attend this year's party. 3, if you're 14, don't lie and tell people you're 15, especially my friend Matt, who may or may not be there this year. 4, if Matt is there, don't make any jokes about his face, i.e. about how alert he looks. People in the public eye are under pressure the rest of us cannot begin to imagine. 5, no nudity unless you took a bath or shower right before coming to my party, or unless you're naked standing up. I don't care how good your body is. 6, no smoking in the house. But wait, you're probably saying, don't you smoke? The answer is yes, but I don't put my cigarettes out on the floor. But you said you were getting rid of that carpet, many of you were thinking. That was true last year, but back then, I didn't know someone would leave a baby on my bed, and that I would have to hire a lawyer, even though it wasn't my baby. Now I can't afford the carpet I had my eye on a year ago. Not even for this new, smaller place. Also, in case you've forgotten, I still have a comatose wife to take care of. But I thought you two were getting a divorce. Those of you I haven't seen since a party before the last one might be saying. It is true that Candace and I were in the first steps of separation. That explained all the boxes in the rear of the van I was driving the day of our horrible accident. Why I was left with only a few scratches on my face and she was left a vegetable is something I ask myself every time I walk into her room to feed my iguana Solomon. 7, at my party, I will offer beer, wine, gin, vodka, scotch, tequila, rum, sangria in cans, and White Claw, along with the usual mixers, Coke, tonic, Diet Dr. Pepper, orange juice, 2% milk, and ginger ale. I'll set out trays, I'll set out nuts and popcorn, and maybe those egg rolls I had last year, but no barbecued potato chips. Candace, as you may or may not know, is deathly allergic to them. The dust from a single one could end her life. What little of it she still cruelly clings to. It's amazing when you think of how a single barbecued potato chip accidentally tossed onto her bed, say, or waved under her nose could change someone's future. Many people's futures, actually. 8. This is the last but perhaps the most important rule of all. Have fun, damn it. It's New Year's Eve, or it will be when you're here in my home, having a blast and wondering, as I certainly will be, what glorious changes the coming months might I was just going to finish with a few of the limericks that I read last year. I wrote these limericks last year, and you know, a limerick has to be dirty, and so I was just on this tour, so I was reading these limericks, and then a woman told me this limerick, and it's so much better than anything. The best. It's the dirtiest limerick ever. A sergeant with stripes numbering 2 had a cock that was red, white, and blue. Though his girlfriends poo-pooed it, he made them salute it before they could suck out his goo. That's just the best, isn't it? So I just wrote a few for Christmas. A showman I know named Saint Nick used plush toys as part of his shtick. He fucked a stuffed bear up its derriere and wound up with poo on his dick. My friend Santa's wife, Mrs. Claus, like the north wind can blow without pause. When Saint Nick is through, she pleasures his crew that places packed ice on her jaws. Jesus' mom, Virgin Mary, had a kid without bursting her cherry. Either the Lord had her hymen restored, or he's hung like a month-old canary. They're easy to write. I once knew a man named Saint Nick who'd a pine cone in place of a dick. Each time he fucked lasses, face front or up asses, they'd feel not his cock, but his prick. There was a gay elf from Hanoi who crafted a talking sex toy. When placed in the keister, it cried out, "Hey, meester, you taste like you've eaten bok choy."